My name is Nick Laidlaw. I'm a holistic exercise and lifestyle coach from Sydney's Northern Beaches. I've created a video platform because I'd love to reach as many people as possible with these simple messages of health. I've also interviewed a host of individuals from our community. In their lives and in their own way, they've all helped to shape me be a better person. So I hope that they inspire you in some way too.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing.
This is Paul Chek. Yay!
So Paul Chek is the founder of the Chek Institute. He's written a really amazing book which sets the foundation principles of health. It's called How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy. He teaches courses worldwide on holistic health, corrective exercise, holistic exercise, and just how to live according to, what is most natural to us. He's a really amazing speaker, spoken all around the world. He's probably like the godfather of holistic health. And his wife, Angie Chek, she's also one of the faculty members of the Chek Institute. She's a holistic coach herself. She's actually a trained shaman as well. So very big wealth of knowledge that we're about to step into. So we're very lucky. Can you guys give me a description of what you do in the Chek Institute?
Well, my role in the Chek Institute is really the chief content creator. So I do constant research and development on everything to do with the human body, mind, and soul. And I think my natural God-given ability is to synthesize complex material into practical working methodology so that people can learn. So I spend a lot of my time doing that, and I carry a full load of clients as well. So that's part of my research and development, is to actually put things to work with live human beings, so it's not just a bunch of theory. When I'm not traveling and teaching and working on development, I'm usually doing art or stacking rocks or something that nourishes my soul. A lot of meditation, Tai Chi, and just inner work is where I feel most gravitated towards at this time in my life, which I've done for quite a while, but it's more important to me now because I need it, I think, just to kind of help me balance the load of everything.
Yeah, when I'm not teaching, I'm also just pretty much a full-time mom. I do have some clients I'm coaching, but the main thing I'm doing is being a mom to Mana. Yeah. So he's 9 months old now, so he's a full-time job.
How have your guys' lives changed or transformed since you've had Mana?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I read all these books on how to be a mom and all the things to look forward to, and I was like, okay, I got this. This is going to be easy. And and people used to laugh at me, and I'm like, what are you laughing about? Because I used to say, oh, when the baby's born, I'm going to write this book because I have no time right now. But when the baby's taking his naps, I'll be writing my book. And they just smiled at me and nodded, and I'm thinking, what's their story? And then you realize that even when they're napping, they're really not napping 100%, and you can't guarantee they're going to sleep for an hour. They sometimes sleep for 20 minutes, sometimes 3. You just never know. And so it's a full-time gig. So writing this book has not happened yet because I didn't realize how much of my life it takes over. And it's the 24-hour job. It's like you don't stop and put them to sleep at night and think, oh, they're done. They can have issues at night. You might have to change diapers. You might have to change their clothes. So it's a full-on. So my whole life has changed dramatically.
What about as a woman? How has your life changed? Since becoming a mother, or how's your perspective on being a woman changed?
Oh, well, I think my relationship with my mom has changed, because I had a semi-good relationship with my mother, but it improved when I had a child because you understand moms more. You understand what they go through, and you realize the struggles and what it is to raise a child, because you have this idea, oh yeah, my mom raised me, but then once you start doing it yourself, you realize, my goodness, my poor mom. And so I have a deeper appreciation for my mom and respect for her in just what she had to go through with 2 kids, and full time. So I went, wow.
Yeah. And in the work that Paul teaches and that you teach now, a lot of the work from the ground up is realizing your living legacy and then following the Tao with that. Does it feel like being a mum is, you're coming home in a sense?
Yeah, I feel like I waited till I was 40 to have a child, so it's just like, whoa, I didn't think I was going to have one. So I feel that I just let go of my expectations of what I was supposed to try to do in life. Like, that was the biggest battle when the baby first came out. It was like, I wanted to do all these things, and I realized I can't do these things and be a mother. So when I fully committed to being a mom, it became much easier.
Yeah.
And so that's my advice to new moms is don't try to be the superhero mom and do everything you used to do plus be a mom, because you'll break down. It's just not enough hours a day, and then the child needs a lot of loving and nurturing. And so I figured that once I learned that and went to the river, the Tao, and just kind of let it flow, I was much easier to get along with because I wasn't so upset about everything, because I was like, had these expectations. And I realized if you get rid of the expectation and just say, I'm just going to be a mom, and then it became a lot easier, because all I had to do was take care of this new little being.
Yeah.
And it was a much easier stride than trying to be the superhero. I can do this and that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And for you, Paul, I suppose you were a dad quite young for the first time, weren't you?
Yeah, I have a 37-year-old right now.
So becoming a father in a different stage of your life, how does that compare?
It was quite a radical experience, actually. When she started whispering in my ear that she wanted to have a child, I was pretty opposed to it, because I, remember quite well what it takes to be a parent and the work involved and, all the things. And I just really reached a point in my career where I was, in all fairness, just tired of people. Not because I don't love people or care for them, but just I'd outputted so much of my life force in the benefit of helping other people that I reached a point where I really just wanted to be alone and be in seclusion, so I could meditate and do art and do things that I felt I needed at the level of my soul, just as probably as a compensation for my entire career has been non-stop. Since I was very young. I started professionally when I was 22 in this career, and it's been a very, very intense journey. So when she wanted to get pregnant and have a child, I had a kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and we actually monitored her cycle very carefully and tried our best not for her to get pregnant, even though she had that desire. But she was really telling me, so what happened is she got pregnant, and then she had a miscarriage, and then she got pregnant again and had, was it a second miscarriage? A second miscarriage. And I started getting this feeling that whoever this soul is very persistent and really wants to be with us. So, we both knew something was going on, because even she was shocked, like, I don't know how this is happening. And so we did a shamanic journey to access the soul, and I wanted to find out who is this soul. And well, to jump forward, she got pregnant the third time, and it stayed, and then that's when I was triggered to say, I've got to find out who this soul is. And so actually right where you're sitting right now is where we did that journey, and it was one of the most profound shamanic experiences of my life, to meet the soul that is now Mana and hear all the things that led Mana to wanting to be with us and why he was being so persistent. And so that took a lot of the angst away and the fear away of me losing any chance of aloneness, and being a father or a mother is very, very full-time commitment. So I was naturally apprehensive, but once he was born, first the shamanic journey and connecting to the soul, which I continued to maintain contact with all the way up until his birth, and even in the process of the soul investing itself fully in the body. And so, but once Mana was born, it had such a powerful impact on me. It was almost as though my fears and worries were evaporated. I just felt so much love for this little guy, and I think one of the things that really hit me was when he came out of her, and the doctors and the nurses had him over, and they were, he was crying and obviously scared, and the anesthesiologist said, if you want to go over there and be with your son, you can. And so I just intuitively sensed I should talk to him. So I started talking to him, and I'd been talking to him in the womb the whole time.
And I was editing a bunch of Paul's work while I was pregnant, so I was listening to his voice
audio.
over and over on audio. So the entire time I was pregnant, I think it was HLC 1 online, I was editing the entire pregnancy. So he heard Paul's voice a lot.
Yeah. So as I was walking across the room, and he was really, freaked out, as you can imagine, and laying on a steel tray, and so I just said, "Mana, it's okay, Daddy's here." And he instantly stopped crying, and he knew it was me.
And he reached out for your hand,
yeah,
right?
he reached out for my hand.
He heard the voice, and I couldn't see anything, but I heard his voice. As soon as Paul started talking to him, he immediately stopped crying. It was just like, my daddy's here or something. It was just like, and even the anesthesiologist looked at me and went, he goes, "Wow, that's really cool." He goes, "He knows Daddy." And I'm like, "Of course he does."
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So there, there's many more experiences like that, but, the love and her happiness, and even Penny, I have 2 wives. Angie is my partner, but Penny has been with me for 20 years, and so she was very gracious to support this process. So Penny was very adamant about not having kids. So and she had her tubes tied many years ago when we were first together, so she wouldn't get pregnant. But when Angie got pregnant, and we both said to her, "This is what's going on," I thought she might say, "That's it, I'm out of here." But she agreed to stay, and it's just brought so much out of Penny, that there's so much natural mothering in her, and she loves Mana, and he loves her, and he has a unique relationship with her as well. And I just felt so incredibly alive, and so much love every day, and just I really had the most visceral sense that God was in our house, and that'll mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but I really felt that this soul was entrusted to us specifically to guide it to doing what it came to this planet to do. And I just felt so honored to have this little being as our child. And I felt grateful that I had enough life experience now to really be an effective father. When I was 18 years old and my son was born, it was just pure survival. And both my first wife's family and my family were dead broke, so there was no getting any support from them. So I had to go out and make shit happen, and I did, and I always have been able to. But it was a lot of stress, and so during his childhood, I was so driven to accomplish and to make money and to create financial stability, and it didn't really leave a lot of time for me to interact with him. And even though I'm still extremely busy, I think one of the big things that changed when she got pregnant and then had Mana was I started. Interestingly, I never used to have the desire to go home. I loved my work and would sit here, 12, 15 hours a day doing whatever it was, from researching to writing to developing things. And then after he was born, I just really started feeling the urge by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon to go home and see my little man, Yeah. So it's brought me into a different kind of, and even deeper level of spiritual development, because now I have to find time to be with myself and be with Mana and Angie and Penny, and I've never been so family oriented in my whole life. My family was a very broken family, and there wasn't a lot of family connection, and so I didn't have that. And even when I was young, it was work all day, come home, eat, go to sleep, do it again, and it was just like that. So I think it's brought me into a state of what I would call a more mature spiritual development, where I realize that the sacrifices that I'm making to what would have been my personal agenda or time before are now essential for the cultivation of this little being, and to support Angie, because I really realized from the beginning, especially, just how hard a work it is for her. And it's been a long time since I was in a parenting role, so, I never really could remember it with the detail that I see now. And I can see how exhausting it is, and even with two wives, Penny contributes a lot, and Angie still works very, very hard. So it made both of us, all of us, really completely empathetic to the tremendous responsibility and stress it must be to be a single parent in the world, and just how hard that would be to navigate. So really that's, where I'm at now that he's growing up. Every day is a new, exciting event with this guy. He's full on, and he keeps us all very motivated, excited, and on our toes.
So he's a very little boy, going to be a young man one day, and you teach all of the values, what it takes to be, a good person, and to love yourself and to contribute to the world, first by filling your own cup and expanding outwards from there. What are some qualities that you'd love to impart on both of you guys? I'd love to know.
Oh, just to treat people with respect, and just there's so many people out there that are so me centered, that it's okay first to be me and take care of yourself. Like you said, you have to take care of your own needs, but to give and know that he has so many gifts inside of him, and we want to watch him grow and see what those gifts are and help him cultivate them. So we're excited to see if he's going to be a musician or he's going to be a dancer, because right now he likes to dance and sing, or we don't know what he's, but we want to keep on nurturing whatever it is that feeds his soul, so that he can go back and give that to the world. So that's what I want to do, is just as a mother, is to watch him and make sure that he's following his dream, so that he can share that dream with others.
I just want to teach him to be confident in himself, and to give him the tools to trust himself, and to teach him not what to think, but how to think. I think that's a big problem in the world today, is children are indoctrinated into religious ideology by parents, and academic ideology by school systems, and scientific materialism by the mindset of the day. And they really don't learn how to solve problems for themselves. They don't learn how to use their own inner thinking and feeling processes. They don't learn how to use their body as an instrument of self-guidance, or their instincts, and they certainly don't learn anything about how to use their intuition. So, we're going to homeschool them, and we are very interested in following Steiner's methodology and not putting a lot of left brain activity on him till he's past 7 years old, ideally 7 to 10, so he learns to feel the connection to everything before he starts mathematical, logical reasoning. And I want to, for me as a man, I think it's important just to teach him to be honest about how he feels about things, and also to be confident in his own experience of life, and to know the difference between an idea and a reality. People fall in love with ideas even when they don't work. And all you got to do is look at how many people keep chasing after magic pills to fix this or do that, or the magic exercise, which is all really just an escapism of doing the actual work of being a healthy person. And so I just want to teach him good, solid values that should be inherent in all of us, because they're moral principles, and a moral is a code of conduct that is life affirmative. It's not an ethic, which is a code of conduct that may or may not be life affirmative. So I want to spend time with him, teaching him how to be self-sufficient, to be out in nature, to know how to hunt, fish, start a fire, so that he has the confidence that he doesn't need to rely on external authorities or support. If he gets stuck, he knows what to do for himself. And I think that I'm excited to teach him about all the world religions and the way people think and the symbols and what they mean, so that he can craft his own belief system. And so for me and Angie too, and even Penny, it's really, we want to release this being into the world equipped to do what he came to do, as opposed to acting out a story that somebody has imposed upon him, which leads to a lot of disease in children and adults and learning disorders and all sorts of things. So I'm just excited to know that he's going to have the freedom to really not only be a child, but to learn how to be an adult after having truly been a child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was your one of your initial or a profound experience or a rite of passage into manhood like for you?
Mine?
Yeah, personally.
Oh, wow.
One that stands out, maybe.
I've had a string of them. Well, you know, the first rite of passage into manhood for me came when I was a little boy, and my mother, my real father, had left my mother, and she was, got hooked up with the man who became my stepfather, but he was a very abusive man. And so there was times when I was watching my mother get the hell beat out of her, and my brother and I would just fight. We would pick up anything we could use as a weapon and throw things at him, and whatever we had to do to protect her. And so, and you know, this is a big dude. He was a 6'4" professional rodeo rider who was one of the strongest men I've ever known. And it's like having a loose grizzly bear in the house. So I remember as a little boy just being fearless, just saying, I don't care if I die, I'm going to protect my mother. And my brother was that way too. So that was kind of my first introduction to manhood. And then having him as my father was a very harsh introduction to manhood. You know, my father's motto was, an idle child is a useless child. So we lived on a 142-acre sheep farm, and there was a lot of work to do. We had sheep, cattle, chickens, pigs. We had a big productive garden we sold things from. We sold firewood. I mean, there was a lot going on, and it's a big operation. It takes everybody's hands on deck. So I honestly didn't have much of a childhood. My introduction to manhood came from defending my mother and being a full-time working slave on a farm is really what I would describe it. And so I learned very, very early, and then I was a father by the time I was 18. So I went from, you know, a manly childhood to a manly existence right off the bat. I was also a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division, so, you know, going through military training and then being a paratrooper is another kind of a manhood contest for me. It wasn't so tough physically because I was well prepared for it, but it was psychologically tough to be abused all day like that and not be able to react or do anything. And so there's been a long, long string of these types of events for me, which is unusual in our culture today.
And what about some earlier experiences of feeling connection and wanting to know yourself at a deeper level?
Do you mean spiritually?
Yeah.
I began having quite profound out-of-body experiences when I was about 12. I think the stress of the environment that I was raised in put me in a situation where I was desperate to somehow leave the earth plane. And I used to have long, angry talks with whatever I believed God was as a kid, because I was very upset that while my friends were out playing sports and watching TV and doing all the things most kids get to do, I was working hard in fields and, you know, doing these types of things. So I started having some very profound experiences where I would leave my body, and Initially it was very, very shocking because it's quite scary. And then I realized that I could just relax and learn to control it. And so from there, I just developed it to where I could travel around and go places and do quite amazing things. I used to go look around, for example, in the barnyard and try to identify certain tools or things. And then I would go up the next day and check to see if I'd actually seen that. And I proved to myself over and over again that I was really actually having these experiences, but I was afraid to tell my mother or father about them because I thought they might take me to a doctor, which could end up being something scary. So I kept it to myself for a long time. And my mother was a Christian Scientist in the beginning, but she became a yogi when I was 12. So being introduced to the Self-Realization Fellowship and the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda and being around the monks was a profound shift in our whole family because it calmed my mother down a lot. And it gave me a greater sense of connection. As a child, I thought Christianity was ridiculous. I really could not believe adults could fall for this stuff. It was just, I won't go into it, but it scared me, honestly. I remember being a kid thinking, wow, people actually believe this. And when I went to my first Self-Realization Fellowship meeting, I felt like a weight had been taken off my soul and that I would be safe here. And when I was 15, my mother sent me away to summer camp with the monks. So I learned a lot of meditation techniques and got a lot of counseling. And that was quite an experience for me. But so there's been many, many since then, and too many to go into now. Yeah. But those were some of the initial ones that opened me up.
That had an impact on the man that you are today.
Well, they actually showed me that the physical world is actually not nearly what we think it is. In fact, I won a remote viewing contest with over 700 people in it, around 2000 or something like that. And at that time, I'd never told any of my instructors that I could do this, and two of them were with me at the time, and it freaked them out. Because some of them, they'd known me for a few years, and they're like, we had no idea you could do this. And I told them, I don't want to tell you everything. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been very, very helpful for me because in times of heavy stress, I've always had the ability to go get help from, other dimensions of reality that are parallel to ours, and it's just one of the things I try to grow my students to be able to do, but it takes a lot of inner development to get past a lot of the programming that we get, which is why I said I want to teach Mana how to think, not what to think, and how to feel, and how to sense, and how to intuit. And I was just blessed as a kid to be a very strong person and have a farm upbringing where we raised all of our own food, so I didn't have the problems of the kids today that are sick and poisoned with garbage food, and I hated school, so I didn't pay much attention, and I only did well in the things I liked, and I really didn't care about whether or not my parents got upset at me or not, because something inside me knew I wasn't meant to be in those kind of schooling environments. And even when I left school in the 9th grade, I had no fear whatsoever, and I really never saw anybody in school that impressed me. And I remember when I was about 25, looking at all my friends who had got off to get degrees in universities, and none of them was making near as much money as me with my 9th grade education, and I was laughing at them because they all had like $60,000 college loans to pay back, and I was telling them, yeah, look, you guys spent your time going to school to learn a bunch of crap. I made it to the top of a logging camp in just a few years, where I was earning top wages at 19 years old. I was making like, I don't know, $300 a day working in a logging camp, and none of these guys were even close to that. So I think that those early experiences grounded me and gave me the gifts that I try to share with other people. But my point was that it's not easy, because people, even the ones that seek out my training, are so encased in fear and belief systems and religious ideology that I would say only 2% of the students that have studied my work actually are using it even close to its potential.
Wow. And Angie, so you're a trained shaman, and so what was it like to be trained as a shaman, and what does some of the practices involve that you impart onto other people nowadays?
Well, say, what is it like to be a shaman? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, I guess first is you have an interest for understanding the world in a different way, or you see the world differently. Mm-hmm. So you start reading books about, connecting to spirit guides and talking to animal spirits, and so that was kind of how I got into shamanism. So it wasn't the buzzword that is today. Like many years ago, we didn't hear about shamanism as it is like on the internet. Everyone wants to be with a shaman. It was more like I was taking my own journey, and I was going to mystery schools and learning about the subtle energies and things that were just pulling me, and I could see worked for my life. And when I used them on my clients, I saw, oh, gosh, this stuff is really powerful. I want to learn more. So that journey took me to shamanism. So I was one day stumbled upon a book called The Way of the Shaman by Michael Harner, who happens to be the shaman that I went to school with and the one that Paul likes. And I got his book, and I thought, oh, this is very interesting. And he had a bunch of exercises in there. So I thought, well, the best way to understand this stuff is do the exercises. So he had a lot of drumming exercises. So I went on the internet, and you could go to his website, shamanism.org, and he actually has video MP3 files where you can download the beat, because I thought, I don't know how to drum a drum yet. So I wanted to know what beat you were supposed to use. So I just bought the thing, put it on my earphones, and started doing the work. And I just had some profound experiences, and I was just like, wow, where you do some journey work and you see your power animals. And I thought, this is powerful stuff. And I just got so excited. So I thought, that's it. I got to meet Michael Harner. So I went to San Francisco and went to, lo and behold, his last class that he actually taught, because he's in his 80s now. And I went there, and he didn't teach the whole class. He just taught the portion of the first day. And he said, would anybody like to be my partner? And I just raised my hand. And this was 80 students in the class. And I guess I was the first to raise my hand out of the 80 students. And he said, okay, you. So he worked with me in the morning. I had a chance to work with him directly. And we did some divination using a rock, and just a powerful experience. And so to have that connection with the teacher. And through that class, I was so naive. I thought everybody could do this work. Now I realize sometimes people get in their way with their head. They're thinking of too many things, and they block themselves from having this ability. I think everybody has that ability. It's just they're so ego invested. I don't know what it is exactly, but I think they're forcing something when it's a natural experience. And so I was in this class, and for example, we had a really good drummer there, and they said, okay, go find a power animal. So the journey was just to go down. They teach you a little bit of steps to do it. And you go into your lower world, and you find a power animal. I said, just find the animal and then come back up. And so because I had been training with Michael Harner's work with the drums for months before the class, I had a full-on journey. And it was like, and it was a completely sober experience. And it was probably more profound to me because I was sober, because I was full-on journeying. Like I had sensations of air blowing through my hair. I could feel sweat. I could taste herbs. I could see things. I was like running through a 3D action adventure movie, full on present. And my heart was just beating on my chest. And that's how I knew I was still somewhere, but my mind was completely somewhere else. And I was just like, this is so amazing. So the teacher said, can anybody talk about their power animal? And I raised my hand. And I started talking about how the journey and how I got down to the lower world and with the animal, and how the animal, it was this big raven at the time, and it grabbed me and took me into the forest, and it was feeding me herbs, and I molted into a raven myself, and we flew through different areas of life. It was like different time dimensions. So I saw different tribes, and then I realized he was showing me different ancestral tribes, because I have ancestors that were Indian. And so I was seeing my relatives, and I was going deeper and deeper, and I was seeing how these tribes changed. And as we went further in time, how the practices looked more barbaric, but really it was just they were more connected to the spirit. So yes, they were doing things with animals, but in a form of sacredness and worship. So, and then it was funny, because when I came back, it was like I could see how life has become so, plain. It's like you go to church and you sit and you kneel and you pray, but there was no connection like there was there. So if there was animals involved, or there's some animal being sacrificed, it was with deep intention. So as I was traveling, I would see even the stature of my relatives became shorter. and their teeth were even more fang-like, just like they were just, just more primitive. And so it was just neat to see them, but their connection to the fire and to the elements and everything was just more profound. And I was seeing this as a raven. I was flying, I could see myself flying into these tribes. So when I came back, I told my teacher, I said, I was explaining this whole story, and she looked at me and she's like, okay, well, let's not try to do what Angie just did. Anybody, and then I went, what? And then she asked a few people in the class, and some people had a hard time just finding a power animal. And then I realized, wow, I guess this is a gift, that I think the practice and being open, I meditated for years before I even tried. I think that's the biggest thing, is stilling the mind. Because with monkey mind, it's hard to focus and stay focused on what you're seeing, because your mind wants to pull you back to everyday activities or whatever's in that head. And so that meditation practice really helped ground me. And then as I started doing the work, I realized this is really amazing. So I just loved it. So I took more of his courses. He had weekend courses, and then I went into his 3-year advanced training program. So I did a 3-year shamanism internship with Michael Harner's program. Right. So it was just profound, and there were so many things I learned. I couldn't share with you everything I learned, but just the tools that we can use, in connecting to rocks and stones and rattles and drums, and how you can use them for divination or for healing, and all these power around us that is, the animals are communicating to you every day. And, it's like when you see an animal, it's like you may not see a squirrel every day, but the day you do see a squirrel, well, what does that squirrel mean to you? And that squirrel is communicating to you. So it's telling you about something in your day. Like, usually a squirrel will tell me, either start saving up your money, don't be spending so much. That's usually a sign of squirrels. If you see a lot of ants, sometimes that means you're working too much. Ants are a sign of working too hard. And so there are different things that will show up. And so for me, if I see an owl or hear an owl, I know that I'm going to have a challenging day. But having the owl show up is encouraging to me, because it says, okay, I'm not alone. These spirits around me are working with me, and they're here to support me. So I'm not, I know that I'm protected. So it's like, okay, take a deep breath. What's going to happen? And so when something does show up, it's like, aha, my guides are here to protect me and to warn me. Yeah. So it's a powerful way. It's like can't go back to not connecting with animals now, because having that connection has been so powerful to me, to know that we have answers right here, everywhere, and everybody's looking for an answer outside of them. Well, there is outside of them, but you can find those answers right around you. You don't have to go call someone or find a guru. That guru is within.
And so,
I wanted to just say too, a lot of people that watch a interview like this will say that's just a bunch of woo-woo bullshit. But I would remind them that it's a lot healthier than using medical drugs, alcohol, processed food, and television to numb yourself and deal with the challenges of life, where these kinds of practices, though aren't understood by people who aren't initiated into them, are a lot healthier and bring you back into touch with nature, and generally have the opposite effect, that people that live these practices need far less medical drugs and are far more capable of managing their addictions or shadow tendencies, and even managing their stress. So it's either, like I said, even with my own teachings, you either go the way of social programming and be a good little robot, including the use of the drugs, or you learn to engage with the power of your own mind and your own soul, which is really your own heart. And that path, I think, is a far healthier path. And when you consider that anybody who takes a shamanic path or a naturalistic path becomes a friend of the earth, but the people that think that is silly are usually the very people that are destroying the earth and somehow ignoring the fact that there's a consequence to this.
Yeah, big time. And how would you suggest somebody reconnects if they are living an urban life, or feeling like they are completely disconnected or sick or dealing with addictions? If there any one tool or any suggestion that we...
Yeah, first things first is go out into nature. Take your shoes off and connect your feet to the ground. You sit by a tree, sit underneath a tree, put your back against a tree. Just being one with nature is the first way to reconnect and get away from all the buzz. It's like Mana is the prime example. He's, it doesn't have any programming, and I have to take him out several times a day and go walk and be out in nature. And just our house, we don't have a lot of buzz in it, but there's still Wi-Fi and things that we turn off at night. But he's so sensitive, he gets agitated. And once we get him out in nature, he can sit quietly under a tree. He loves to play with dirt and grass and just, he plays with stones. I mean, he's already stacking stones. I'm like, oh, that's father's influence already. But it's so, it's, I think it's innate in us, and we forget that. And so that's the first thing is go get into water. Immerse yourself. If you can't go outside in water, get inside your bathtub and connect to water that way. So just being around is get some live plants for your house. A lot of people have all these synthetic plastic plants, and they're living in a plastic world. So getting life around them.
Cool. And Paul, just to one last question, if I can, what does good health look like to you?
Well, many people have preconceived ideas of what good health is, and a lot of them have preconceived ideas of what I think good health is. I think, in my opinion, good health is the willingness to honestly engage the challenge of being a human being and not take shortcuts that are medicating you for usually due to lack of your own awareness. In other words, somebody who has good health is aware enough to know when they're creating their own problems by not listening to their body. For example, you see we have a huge problem with obesity worldwide, but I don't know of anybody who caught obesity, right? Like you caught a flu virus. You don't wake up one day and go, oh my God, I gained 50 pounds. What happened? Right? It happens day by day. So you watch yourself growing in the mirror. And people watch their skin getting worse and worse in the mirror. And they watch their muscles start to fall off. And boobs drop. And asses drop. And abdominals expand. Yeah, the real issue is that, our culture worldwide, all cultures are suffering from chronic diseases of all types, whether it be obesity or arthritis or inflammatory syndromes and heart disease. And the list just goes, cancers through the roof. So, cancer is another one. Cancer does not happen overnight. Cancer usually takes 10 to 15 years of abusing oneself or not paying attention to create. So for me, a healthy person isn't necessarily someone that's free of an illness or free of challenges by any means, but a healthy person is somebody who takes responsibility for what they're creating and has enough respect for themselves and for their participation in the lives of other people and their responsibility to creating something in their life that gives them a sense of gratification so that they can add something to the garden. My philosophy is leave the garden a little better than how it was when you got here. And so a healthy person is really very apt to having challenges in their life. And I think that the soul brings us into challenges, be they addictions or relationship problems or career development problems or health problems, because we came to learn how to contribute to ourselves in the world. So someone might get a disease not because they were doing something wrong or living wrong, but because their soul wants them to explore that disease and learn to heal it effectively so they can become an authentic guide to other people. So, in summary, I don't think that health is having washboard abs and a perfect diet. I think health is really a balance between being aware of what it takes to be healthy, which I call the 4 doctors, and then living fully enough that you're not a health fanatic. I think being a health fanatic's a disease in itself. Do what you do because you love yourself and you're respectful of the magical mystery of life, and that you get to have a body and participate and know that it's a gift that is extremely exquisite, right? It's a very exquisite gift to have a human body and to be able to have choice and free will and and to be able to express your creativity and to make love and to share relationships with animals and to be creative and to contribute and to dance and to sing and to play and to party. So someone that's healthy doesn't want to lose out on those opportunities, and someone that's healthy doesn't run from the challenges in their life. They engage in them with the intention of resolving the challenge, not only to restore freedom, but to share the gifts of their lessons with others to minimize the likelihood of them losing themselves. So that's what health means to me.
Cool. Well, you guys are both shining examples of living and loving and being healthy. So
Thanks.
So grateful to have a moment of your time and up at your awesome pad. And yeah, thanks for everything that you guys do to the world. And for me personally, it's been huge. The impact that both of you guys have had on my life. So I'm really grateful for both of you guys.
Thanks for passing it on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Awesome.